Hello, good morning class. You are welcome to today's class, and the topic that we'll be continuing with is control social. The last time we met, we discussed about control socials. That is, they are the conditional control social, that is, they are decision making, and they are the social that allow your program to execute different block of code based on whether a certain condition is true or false. So we'll be looking at, and we discussed last time, we discussed two major categories of control social. And the last lecture we did is on selection control social. So today we'll be looking at repetition structure. That is what we'll be looking at today. And repetition structure allows the programmer to specify that a program should repeat an action where some condition remain true. So it allows the programmers to allow them to specify that a program should be repeated as far as the condition remain true. That is what from this diagram now, from this figure example, like if this condition, the decision making condition is true, the arrow point to go and execute this code. So you execute the code, and if the condition is not true, is false, like the arrow tending down, that means the program, the condition stop, it stop running. So that is it. And repetition structure allow a set of instructions to be repeated multiple times based on a condition. So it's based on the condition that allow a set of instructions to be repeated multiple times, and it helps avoiding writing the same code again and again. So, and there are several structures for implementing this. We have like Python now. Want to look at in Python programming language how they execute this repetition structure, this condition. So, and computer are often used to automate repetitive tasks because iteration is so common, and Python provides several language features to make it easier. So Python has several language features to make our repetitive tasks, to be easier for us to iterate. So it makes it easier, and we'll be looking at different forms of iteration in Python. And the first one, the one form is the while statement. The while statement, the example of how they use while statement. While statement in Python is used when you repeat as long as a condition is true. So it's used when you repeat as long as a condition is true. So, and it's used to while statement in Python is used when you don't know exactly how many times to repeat. So that is how it's used when you don't know exactly how many times to repeat. That's why loop in Python, I call it loop. Why loop is applicable. So, and let's see the example of how they use it. The example code here, like s as a variable, s equal to 10, y is a condition, y statement loop, y inside the bracket, s less than 0, print s, and s equal to s minus 1. So the variable for the condition here must be updated to make sure that this does not turn into an infinite loop that does not have an end. So, and we have the syntax of a for statement loop as well. We have finished with the while statement. We have that of the syntax for for statement loop, that which is similar to that of the while statement loop that we just finished explaining. But what is more concise about the for statement that is similar to the while statement is that the for statement iterates over a sequences on an iterable object. So and such iterable object can be tuples, list, string, dictionary, which we have discussed in 201 Introduction to Python Programming. So first statement, iterate over a sequences or iterable object, and such iterable object, I've said it, it can be list, it can be string, it can be dictionary, and you can use the range function as well. It can be list comprehension and instances of classes that obey the iterator protocol are iterable. So those are the iterable objects that we can use in four loop, four statement or for loop, because for loop in Python is used to repeat code a specific number of times. We can repeat the first for loop in Python is used to repeat code. You can repeat code a specific number of times, and it's used for iteration over a sequences, and that sequences I've mentioned can be list, it can be tuples. Those are the objects, iterable objects that can be iterated over a sequences. So we see the example, this short example code for I in range 10, print I, and we are done with the Python while and for statement loop in Python. So we'll go to PHP. We'll be comparing them, comparing the that of the PHP with Python, with the while statement and the for statement. So and all other conditional statements are under repetitive that PHP to have, we look into it now. So we have PHP have the simplest form of loop, which is while statement loop in PHP. So, and while statement loop in PHP is that if the expression evaluates to be true, the statement is executed and then the expression is re-evaluated. That is, if the expression is evaluated is true, the body of the loop is executed again and so on like that. So, and the loop ends when the expression is no longer true. So, but if the expression that is, if the expression evaluates to be false, that means the loop will exist. But when the expression is no longer true, the loop exists. That is, evaluate to false. So that is what this while statement under PHP, that is the scenario of how it goes. So, and while statement in PHP is identical, is almost similar, identical to Python while loop, because both of them execute a block of code repeatedly as long as a specific condition evaluate is true. As far the condition insists to, the body of loop is executed again and again. So it's almost identical to Python while loop. That of PHP is almost identical to Python while loop. So, and so we look at the example of what we are saying about the while statement loop in PHP. So we start with the PHP starting, so which is the less than sign question mark. So with the $sign I equal to 1, so with semicolon, while inside the bracket $sign I less than or equal to 10. So with the open parenthesis si equal to si minus 1 echo si output. That will be the output of $sign I. So which is, $sign I equal to $sign I minus 1. So that is how PHP in echo is. So the while statement is inside is a condition inside the bracket here, and if that condition is true, the body of the loop is executed again and again. So that is for while statement. At the beginning of the it starts at the beginning of the expression before while loop being run at the end. So and the first statement is similar to the while statement. So we can see that the first statement in PHP2 is similar to the while statement, except it adds counter initialization. It adds counter initialization for the first statement. The difference between that is that first statement adds counter initialization and counter manipulation expression, and is often shorter and easier to read than the equivalent while loop. So the expression start is evaluated once at the beginning of the for statement. So we look at the example down, and each time through the loop the expression condition is tested, and if the condition tested is true, the body of the loop is executed. So the expression tested, the expression condition is tested, and if the condition is true, the body of the loop is executed, and otherwise if the condition is false, the loop ends. That ends the loop. So and the expression increment is evaluated after the loop body. So you can see from here, from the example of how they use the for loop, for statement in PHP. So starting with the example code here, starting with the PHP sign to start for. Inside the bracket we can see $sign to be 0, and si less than equal to 10 with the $sign less than equal to 10 semicolon, each of the condition with the semicolon. So we are the last one, the $i plus plus, that is increment. I is incremented by 1 after each iteration, so it's increment by 1. So maybe I plus plus, like $sign $sign to be 0, increment with the plus plus, we increase to 1, 2 to till it went to less than equal to 10 till reach to 10. So that is the output, echo output $sign I. So we can also leave an expression empty. So an expression can be empty, signaling that nothing should be done for that phase. So when an expression is empty, it signifies that nothing should be done for that phase. And we'll be seeing the example of how our expression is empty in this example down here. For inside this expression, we can see each of the semicolon that is up to like 3 inside the bracket, they are empty. So and mode generated from the first statement become an infinite loop, and we can probably want to run the example here and it never stop printing. So because of the empty loop, so empty expression. So we have and the echo with we output of si. So this expression here may, this example expression here, it may stop print, it may never stop printing, because when you are running it, the first statement become an infinite loop. So and that of the for statement. So that end the class.